The government is putting the brakes on blanket speed limit reductions, meaning Kiwis might soon be driving faster. The Transport Minister says removing the blanket requirement to review speed safety on all roads will allow more consideration for the economy, travel times and the views of local road users and communities. His name is Simeon Brown. He's with us live. Good morning.
Good morning.
So, removing this sort of blanket requirement, what impact do you expect that will actually have on speeds on New Zealand roads? How many roads will now be sped up because of this change?
So this is the first of two steps in terms of giving effect to our policy we announced during the election. This stops the requirement for all road controlling authorities to put in place a speed management plan by the 29th of March 2024, which was effectively, under the last government's rule, would put blanket speed limit reductions across a large number of roads in New Zealand. The next step is it allows me as the Minister to rewrite the setting of speed limits rule, which will allow us to take a much more balanced approach to speed limits, and in particular to be able to say actually there's some of those roads which have had their speed limits reduced via a blanket approach down to 30 kilometres per hour should actually be reinstated back to 50 kilometres per hour. So this is the first step. It stops the blanket approach being put in place, and then the next step is me rewriting the entirety of the rule, which we've already started work on, to get a much more balanced approach to speed limits in New Zealand.
Okay, so this is the undo part, and then you're going to do the redo later on. Do you have any idea what councils, or how many councils actually, for that matter, were against the blanket rules? In other words, how many of them might be undoing or reversing some of the plans they had and were required to do by this legislation?
Well, I've spoken to a number of mayors across New Zealand who have said, look, we're very frustrated by the fact that we've been required under this, the previous rule to consult to slow speed limits down to 30 kilometres per hour on many suburban streets. They were doing what they were required to do. What this does is it means they don't have to do that.
Told, sorry, Minister, they weren't told you have to reduce the speed limits to 30, right?
Well, what the rule did is it effectively said you've got to have a slower speed limit around schools, and they were using that to apply a 30-kilometre blanket approach entirety across many suburbs in many cities across New Zealand. So here in Wellington, where I am today,
Minister, just to be clear, that was in Wellington, for example. That was because that's what the council wanted, and you want local councils to have more say. They were.
Well, I want there to be a balanced approach. In Wellington, they found that actually, and Wellington was the only council, to their credit, which actually did a benefit-cost analysis and actually found had a negative benefit-cost analysis, so they stopped work on it. What I'm saying is,
but again,
yes, we need to have safer speeds.
That's their prerogative, right? They're a local authority. Why shouldn't it be up to them?
Well, because we actually think that we need to be able to move around our cities and regions quickly and safely, and that we shouldn't be just simply slowing people down, which is what the prior rule allowed councils to do. But we do think that there still needs to be a safer approach around schools, but that should be a variable approach where you have slower speed limits during pick-up and drop-off times. So that's what we will require. But outside of that, actually, we think there needs to be a balanced approach.
50 k's an hour, let's say Maclean's College in your electorate. Right now I'm assuming it's 30 k's when you drop a kid off to school there, and then it's 30 k's throughout the day. You're saying it would be 30 k's at 9 o'clock in the morning. At midday you could zoom past at 50 and then back to 30 k's at 3 o'clock.
Well, the reality is children are being dropped off and being picked up at school in the morning and in the evening, in the afternoon. The rest of the time, only outside of the 200 days that school is open, weekends, actually we think people should be able to move quickly and safely around their cities and their regions, and that we don't actually need to make people crawl around our cities and our regions, which is what the prior rule was being used to do. So we actually think there's going to be a much more balanced approach. Yes, we need to ensure that there is safety for children being dropped off and picked up, but outside of that, actually we need to be able to get where we need to go. Kiwis have things to do, places to be, and we shouldn't be effectively just having blanket speed limit reductions, which is what the prior government's approach was giving effect to.
Fair enough. You talk about the the productivity gains that we could get from this. Do you know how, all said and done, you obviously asked for advice by now, I assume, how many extra deaths we might have from you making these changes, and actually what is the productivity gain or the GDP gain that we would get from you making changes?
Well, the first approach is effectively stopping the blanket speed limit reduction, which is what I've done in this week. The next step is to go through rewriting that rule, which will take into account all of those factors, and that's where I'll be receiving that advice. Ultimately, there's also some roads which need to be increased to 110 kilometres per hour, such as Transmission Gully. It makes no sense that that road is 100 kilometres per hour and needs to have its speed limit increased. So
totally.
We will
but
be
just,
going
just
through
so
a
we're
process
clear,
to...
Yeah, at this stage, you're not clear on one, what the benefit might actually be, or two, how many deaths it might involve, but we're going ahead and removing the requirement anyway. One of the things, the $500 million for pothole fund that you guys announced during the election, you said part of that would be funded from getting rid of these blanket speed reduction rules. And I understand that this getting rid of them is actually going to cost money. So is that creating a hole for you?
No, not at all. In fact, we said that that fund would be paid for by a number of sources. I mean, the last government was using, had a significant road safety budget which was being used to slow people down, spending huge amounts of money on speed calming measures, raised pedestrian crossings, speed bumps. There's a whole lot of money being put into a whole lot of those areas which effectively just make it inconvenient to get around our cities and our regions. We're going to take a much more balanced approach, and actually people need to get where they need to go quickly and safely. We need to be able to travel efficiently, and so we will be taking an approach which says actually the movement of people and goods is really, really important. Yes, we need to invest in safety, and that means having a well-maintained roading network. It means having investing in new roads. That's why we've got the Roads of National Significance program that we're going to bring back. It also means tackling things like drugged driving, which the last government failed to do. So there's a range of things which go into improving road safety, and we're going to be tackling all of those issues. But what we're saying here today is blanket speed limit reductions won't be part of that strategy.
100%. Minister, just so that we're really clear, did you or did you not say before the election that you would use some of the money from scrapping blanket speed reductions to fund your pothole fund? Did you or did you not say that?
Yes, we said we were going to rebalance the government policy statement on transport, which means that we would be taking money away from some of those areas and putting it towards actually improving the quality of our roads.
How
and
much?
We've started work on rewriting the government policy.
Yeah, I get that, but how much are you saving? How much are you saving? Because you said we would make savings by scrapping the blanket rule. How much are you saving?
Well, we're currently rewriting the government policy statement on transport, which is going into all of that detail.
Is it actually costing you $30 million, Minister?
We are going to allocate some funds in order to, where needed, to reverse some of these blanket speed limit reductions.
So what you told us before the election would save us money is now costing us money to the tune of $30 million. Is that right?
Well, no. Before the election, I also said we would allocate some money towards reversing speed limit reductions. That we put that in our Accelerate New Zealand policy document.
So what's the net saving?
But we also said we were also going to allocate $500 million from all of those areas which are simply slowing people down, making it inconvenient to get around, such as the significant number of raised pedestrian crossings and speed bumps that are being put on roads all across our cities at the moment, and actually put that towards maintaining the roading network in the first place, because actually a safe network is a well-maintained network, and that's our priority.
All right, we do have to leave it there. Simeon Brown, the Transport Minister, thank you very much for your time this morning from Parliament. We appreciate it. 16 after 7.